Hey guys, welcome back to On Our Terms, hosted by moi, Ismatou Bah, the big sis that fucks up so you don't have to. And as usual, let's set some ground rules. This is not a safe space. It's a brave space. So let's be brave. So in honor of that, mummy, I'm mentally ill. And I'm gonna be talking about it with my really good friend, Jendayi Bonds.
Hi.
So who is Jendayi? Jendayi is from Austin, Texas. She studies songwriting at Belmont University, which is one of the best songwriting schools in the world. She is a music queen, former front gal of the band Charlie Bell, who has been featured in outlets like Wire and NPR and played on huge stages like Austin City Limits and South by Southwest. She has also slayed in the music publishing and sync licensing world and currently works at a world-renowned podcast. You're cool as fuck.
Thank you. I realized, like, as you were saying that I was supposed to send you a bio and then I didn't. So, like, I'm hearing this bio for the first time with you.
I guess today we're going to be talking about something a little deep. It's going to be a little deep.
Yes, let's do
Like,
it.
I was pretty hesitant about this, like, recording this mentally ill episode. And I think me being hesitant in itself, I was like, well, if I'm feeling this way, there's probably a lot of people that are feeling this way. And
Yeah.
so I need to talk about it. Growing up in a West African household, like, the idea of being depressed or anxious or having any signs of mentally ill, like mental illness, was always seen as children acting out and characterized as like us being too American.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I definitely internalized that growing up and was like, oh, okay, like I want to separate myself from this. And when I was actually experiencing, some of my darkest times, like I didn't think it was real. And so I never fed into it, I guess you can say. I don't know if that's a
Mm-hmm.
right word, but I never gave it importance. And I was just like, well, I placed the onus on me to like be resilient and like, going back to being the strong black woman, like I just need to be strong. I need to power through it, whatever I'm feeling, whatever sadness, or, as our parents will say, turn to God. I need to turn to God more.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just not working.
Yeah.
How did you experience mental health growing up? Like, how did your family speak about it? What was the vibes around that?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
just given, because I know you're from Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think that's, as you were like sharing your story, it made me think of my own, which I think if I didn't have a lot of time to process my answer, I would probably say something like, oh, like my parents didn't understand mental health and they didn't ever address it because of like what I've had to like learn about myself later in life. But I think actually the reality is like more nuanced than that. There is mental illness, like history of mental illness on my mom's side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And like undiagnosed, but I'll definitely say on my dad's side as well. But on my mom's side, it was like extreme. So like, one of my family members was a hoarder. One of
Mm-hmm.
my family members was bipolar. Um, and he ended up actually losing his life like a few years ago, maybe a few years ago. Black people are crazy, like 10 years ago, 10 years ago. um but yeah, so like I think that like that is kind of like the example that my family has and has had on mental illness, which is that like it's extreme. It's only like extreme levels. And then
Yeah.
like, um, and I don't even think therapy is ever really talked about. Like it's like medication was talked about because we had extreme levels of like, we had extreme mental illness, like
Mm-hmm.
on my mom's side. But nothing nothing like general anxiety, general depression, things like
Yeah.
that weren't a thing. And so growing up, I think because I never displayed any sort of signs of like extreme distress within
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Because you're an oldest daughter too, right? So like you don't,
Yes.
would you say you were even given the room to express feelings of distress or feelings of, I don't know, I'm just not like I would never go home to my mom and be like, I'm just not feeling it today. Like I'm feeling really sad. Like my mom would be like, what the hell is your problem?
Yeah, no, like it's so funny because I think I'm naturally such an emotional person and I always have
You're
been. I'm a
Pisces.
Pisces. So, yeah, no, like I never had the platform growing up, but I think that I was always like begging for it. Like
Mm,
I I didn't want to cry in front of my parents. Like I didn't want to display emotion, extreme like levels of emotion to my parents, but
mm,
sometimes when it got really bad, I just did and it was really embarrassing and I couldn't help it, but like that's just what happened.
mm-hmm.
And then I think like they just didn't really know how to like comfort me necessarily through those times.
Yeah.
And I think growing up, I kind of like developed the kind of like a narrative within my family unit of like being like the emotional one, you know?
Really.
Yeah.
For me, I was the angry one. Like I'm
Really?
the crazy, like psycho, like angry, like can't get it together one.
That
That's
is
how
so
I feel like that's
funny.
how my family, like I'm definitely emotional. I think there is I guess that is them acknowledging that I am emotional, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
my emotions manifest in anger
Yeah,
to them,
yeah.
and it's me being ridiculous. Like like I'll hear my family say things like, you know how she gets, you know
Mm-hmm.
it's Mathew, you know how she gets, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I get that, but it's like sadness and tears. And they're like, "Oh, sensitive Jendayi,
oh, that's
sensitive."
so annoying.
Yeah, it's
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 very
it's
like
really annoying.
it's very
Definitely.
invalidating because I'm like, damn, like, do y'all hear me? Do y'all see me? Or like y'all
Yes.
just see me like angry black woman
Right. Right.
or
Like
sad and die.
exactly. And I think one of the biggest reasons why I was like writing songwriting so vigorously as a child was because it felt like a safe outlet to
Mm-hmm.
process like a lot of my emotions. And so, what's hilarious is that because obviously my family valued Black excellence, um, just in a different way, maybe like not as much academically as they like challenged me to pursue my music really seriously. Um, I would like pour out all of my emotions and like literally paint a story. Like, of what I was going through in a song. And then my parents would be like, "Oh my God, like how did you even come up with that?" And like and the words would like seriously be they would just like spell it out. Like what I was going through. My parents would I like couldn't talk to my parents about like what I was going through, but as soon as I put it in a song, they would be like, you were just
Amazing.
you're just
You're
so
doing amazing,
amazing.
sweetie.
Exactly.
How would you? Because like I know you basically were a child star, and like you were also going to school at the same. Were you going to school at the same time as you were
Yeah.
like performing and building Charlie Bell?
Yeah. There was one year that I wasn't in school.
Oh, got you. Was
Yeah,
that in high school or middle
it
school?
was in high school. Yeah, it was my
Got
junior year. I was not
got
in
you.
school.
How did that manifest? How did that take a toll on your mental health?
That's such a good question. And it's like perfect timing because I'm literally unpacking all of this in therapy like right now. Like
Really?
literally right now. I see my therapist, Lauren, twice a week, girl.
Period. Shout out to our
Yeah,
therapist.
shout out. I love you so much.
Love you, Natasha.
Um, yeah, I honestly only recently like came to terms with the term child star and even still I'm like is that like the right word? But I feel like
I
it
mean, you were performing on huge stages and
yeah,
like
yeah.
you were in Austin. Like I was doing a little research. Like you were doing your thing, girl. You were in
Yeah.
Jossie. You guys were doing it like South by Southwest multiple times. Like that
Yeah.
is a huge platform. We're gonna call you them girls in Austin. Like what are we gonna call them? Austin It Girl.
I did.
Yeah, yeah. So you're the Austin It Girl.
Yeah.
You're in this cool band, Charlie Bell. You must have been killing it at school. Thriving.
I think like by senior year, I was like, yeah, I'm that bitch. The whole town knows me.
Yeah.
But before, I didn't really feel that way. Because, also as a black girl, like, you can be the most popular and like the prettiest and like be dating the hottest fucking person in school and still have like a bunch of hate, you know what I'm
Oh yeah.
saying? And like
Yeah.
active bullying going
Yeah.
on. So I was definitely experiencing that. And I think because of that, like when I was younger, I just didn't really see myself um, as like a super popular person.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, yeah. I was like the one of the only black kids in the spaces that I grew
What
up
type of school
in.
did you go to? Was
Mm,
it like a private school?
for middle school, I went to like an all girls academic,
Immediately no.
yeah, uniformed.
Immediately no.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
All
yeah.
girls schools.
Yeah, yeah,
My mom
yeah.
was trying that for high school, and I think she looked at me like 3 times, and she was like, I don't think it's gonna work out, because it
Ah,
wouldn't have.
yeah, no.
All girls schools are like a different terrain. Like,
It was a lot. I mean, it also felt so normal at times, but like it was definitely like weird. I remember like our bunch of schools in the district, y'all play against each other in sports, shit like that. Every school has their
yeah,
own.
like your league or whatever.
Right, right. And so, all of the schools had their own rep, their own reputation, and because we were all girls, they always called us the lesbians. They were always like, yeah, all the girls that go there are lesbians. And I remember all of us being like, no, guys, that's not
I'm not a
literally,
lesbian.
I shit you not.
Do you say that?
Every single person that was in my friend group is gay in some way, shape, or form.
Were you guys fighting it though? Were you guys fighting the gay allegations, or were you guys just
We
like,
were acting, we were like fighting them.
you were like, I'm not gay?
We were like, we are not gay. Just because this is a girls' school does not mean we are like all gay now.
That's usually how it goes.
No, like that's actively how it goes. It's just so hilarious. Like,
But I'm guessing like going to white ass all girls school
yeah.
definitely had effect on your mental health.
So my mom grew up in Princeton, so around academic success.
Mm.
And, the Northeast is not playing about academia. I
Very
remember her.
academically inclined mom
Oh, yeah.
had her standards for
Oh, yeah.
excellence, black
Yeah.
excellence.
Classic.
Yeah, very, very. Would you say they were classist? Like, how would you describe? Like, she was like a very like hyperactive, very involved mom,
Definitely. Yeah, she
and she knew
definitely
what she was
was.
working. She was college educated, so she
Mm hmm.
knew where the resources were, what to tap, what to make move
What
for
she
her
wanted
children.
for
Mm-hmm.
us,
She had a
that's
plan.
yeah. And that's why we had instrument lessons in the first place. Like the plan was never to start a band, it was like so that we had a great extracurricular on our resume for
You guys are
college.
well rounded.
Exactly. That
Mm-hmm.
was her long game plan.
Yeah.
Um
So college was always gonna happen, whether you
yes.
liked it or not.
Yeah. And like I remember getting a lot from my friends and like teachers that like, oh, like your music stuff, like that's really weird. You're never gonna get a job that way, blah 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 blah. So I went from that in middle school to like kind of the exact opposite at
Mm-hmm.
like a private high school that I
Mm-hmm.
went to that only had 75 kids at the time. So it was like very small classes. I went there for like 2 years, but then it got really bad because of bullying. It was actually so bad that I left the school.
Was that what you were talking about earlier? You took a year off?
Yeah.
Oh my God, because these white girls were bullying you.
Yeah. It was so bad.
What were they saying?
It was just, I mean, it was also really complicated because I was being a gay person without realizing it.
You were being a
I
gay.
was I was gaying around as a gay does. And
And the white girls were like, that is unacceptable.
well, it was more complicated than that. Like I honestly started messing with a white girl because I was the only black girl in my school. And I started messing with a white girl, but then like we had drama and I was like friends with a different white girl and like she was like, you guys are toxic, like you guys shouldn't be together. But then like they went off on their sophomore year, like trip or whatever, junior year trip, came back, iced me out, they were
Oh my
together. It was
gosh.
crazy. It was like classic lesbian drama, but like I didn't realize that at the time. And, like they didn't realize nobody realized at the time like what we were going through was like
Yeah.
lesbian drama.
Mm-hmm.
in a small school. And like
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't know that,
Yeah.
at the time, like obviously now I'd be like, oh, this is,
This
I know what this is. You know what
is.
I'm saying? But like,
No, I feel that.
yeah. And so like it was, they kind of just like, because the school was so small, the group of people that like didn't like me and didn't talk to me like built,
Built, yeah.
one by one, and then like all of a sudden it's like a whole third of this school that like
Yeah, and that
doesn't
can be
fuck with
really,
me.
especially in high school when all you want to do is like fit in and like
Yeah.
have your friends,
Yeah.
and when that's taken away from you, it's like the end of the world.
Yeah,
And that can really
absolutely.
have like severe effects. Like the inability to assimilate can be so traumatizing.
Yeah.
Like I didn't experience. I mean, yeah, no, my entire grade did not like me.
Right?
Yeah,
Like it'd
and
be
I
like
like, but
that.
it was like for me though, like it was a type of thing where I was like, well, then fuck y'all.
Yeah.
Because also I didn't have a choice. Like I had to. That had to be my coping mechanism
Mhm. Mhm.
because I couldn't leave. Because what was I gonna do? Go back to Queens
Yeah.
and go back to public school
Yeah.
and not go to the college that I need to go to? No. First of all, my mom will kill me. She's not gonna kill me, but she's not gonna be happy with me.
Yeah, totally.
And so for me, it was like, okay, well, I have to just brave it out. But I was extremely depressed.
Mhm.
Like my senior year, I never barely was on campus on the weekends. I wore the same outfit every day. Never did my hair. I was just not taking care of myself, and my room was a mess. I was struggling academically,
Yeah.
and I just remember, everybody looking at me like, "What's going on with you?" And I was
Mhm.
like, "Well, I kept telling myself, well, I just have to fight through this or whatever it is, or I just need to do better, or I just need to, study more." I always
Mhm.
kept turning it back on me, like, I'm the reason this is happening. I can change it. I need to change it. But truth is, looking back at it, I wish somebody caught it, an adult caught me, being that I was in this prison and I was highly patrolled.
Yeah.
Like, someone, I wish some adult caught that I was extremely depressed.
Yeah. Definitely.
And my anxiety around grades, performance, college, also just everything I was going through in school, was extremely anxious as well. And the thing is, after that, because I was so afraid of failing, I would just not do put in I would leave I would all throughout college I would leave essays till the morning of to write it. And if
Mhm.
I got a bad grade, I'd be like, well, like if I wrote this earlier, if I studied earlier, like I probably would have gotten a better grade. I still ended up doing fine by the grace of God, but
Mhm.
like I I definitely was depressed towards the end of high school.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
And I was just
same.
raw dogging life. No
Mhm.
medication, nothing.
Duh, come on.
Medication? Who's that?
Medication. I've only been medicated for like a few years. Like, come
Mine started
on.
last year.
Yep, absolutely. Medication. That's
Medication.
hilarious. Yeah, no, I mean, I was going through the same thing, and I think like um I did have a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
I think, my mom's kind of answer to, oh, like we're not in a culture of academia anymore, was to like really put the pressure on, where she could see us becoming excellent, which was in our music,
Mhm.
and so when we would play like a little show, if we were like sloppy or something, like my mom would like point that out after a
Was she a
show.
harsh critic?
um yeah, she kind of was, she kind of
But
was.
also, I want to. What was the feedback for you versus Jossie? Because Jossie's a boy,
Yeah,
and
that's
Jossie was a
true.
cute. I saw pictures of you guys. Jossie was the cutest
Ah,
boy.
yeah. Early on, it was pretty much the same.
Mhm.
But I would say once we kind of started receiving more attention,
Mhm.
Jossie was still so young, honestly, that they couldn't even process some of the success that we had reached, Like, they don't know how big NPR is, like, to get an NPR feature. They don't know. They're like,
Mhm.
yeah, like, oh,
Oh,
we
they were
listen
probably
to
just like
NPR in the
whatever.
car every day, but, like, not realizing the impact, But I was, like, just old enough to realize. So I was, like, present during, like, our band kind of receiving a lot of attention and
Mhm.
press. So I think around then is when it kind of like shifted a little bit, and more like the responsibility of like the band's success, um, in a bigger way than just like playing well, fell on me a little bit
Yeah.
harder. And, me putting together the shows, booking our own shows.
Making sure you guys are respecting
Yeah,
deadlines, doing
being
the
the band
admin stuff.
leader.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was the band leader. I became the band leader for sure. And, I was the one that was like writing the songs and melody and the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
So I would ultimately like also bring those to Jossie, and like we would talk through how I hear the song being played out.
Yeah. But that's not pressure.
Yeah, it was a lot of pressure, and I started feeling so between that and like my mom also, our parents being the biggest critics of our like live
Mm-hmm.
shows. I have so many memories of like me looking at my parents, like not being able to like keep my eyes off of them as I'm like performing on stage, like looking at wherever they are.
Yeah, because you were probably were you looking for that validation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
trying to read their facial expression, trying
Yeah.
to see, if they think that I'm doing a good job. And then, getting off stage and like my mom being like, you guys were a little sloppy, but you know that you guys didn't practice this week. Like just like
Yeah.
just like shit like that. So that was like its own pressure. And then when I got the record deal, it was like all of a sudden, okay, it's time to write a second EP. Okay, it's time to write an album. It's time to write a couple singles.
Mm-hmm.
And then, after my junior year off was like done and I went to a new school for my senior year,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden it was like applying to college and also trying to finish my first album, which is like 10 to 12 songs because that's what my record label like asked of me.
Yeah.
And so I was going through so much. My mom was constantly upset with me because I also had a little boyfriend that I was, you know,
You and your little
leaving the house to go
boyfriend.
hang out with. And like my mom would be like, you have colleges to apply to, you have applications, and you have an album that you have to finish. Like, how many
The
songs
thing
have
is,
you
I guess I'm a
finished?
bit surprised that you went to college like once you already had a record deal. Because like a lot of my friends that did have that, like did have that usually college is, you know, an obstacle for them. So the record
Yeah,
label is usually like, yeah, you already have what you want. So you gotta ditch this thing because
yeah,
it's impeding on you going to these gigs, it's impeding on you being able to write us music, it's impeding on you being able to work. And it's like, what are you going to school for? For this, right? So quit. Like
yeah,
quit school.
absolutely.
So I guess why did you like was that an option that you guys weighed or was it just like your record label was like, no, it's fine, like go to school and make
Well,
music?
honestly, you know, my mom was just very insistent. Like, she was like woke in certain ways, but also like old school in other ways, which was that
Mm-hmm.
like she really just didn't see a reality where my brother and I didn't go to college, like at that time.
Yeah.
It was like her dream for us forever. So whenever that kind of talk, like you're right, like our manager, agents, like the label, potential managers would all constantly be like, okay, like she's not going to go to college immediately, right? Because we were kind of, we were doing our little thing, but it was still like, okay, what's the next step? But my mom was like, listen, there's no way you're not going to college.
That was the one thing Aunt Nia said no to.
Yeah, she was like, there's no way that my black child is going to be uneducated in this world, in this
Which
country,
honestly,
like,
period, like I
and
get where
have
she's coming
her
from. Yeah.
talent taken advantage of, whatever, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. Also, when that was kind of like, that was the boundary that my mom was like putting on everybody that was talking with us. Um, we lost a lot of, we lost a lot of interest, in like potential managers and labels and
Mm.
agents. Yeah, we didn't have time. I didn't have time.
Yeah, because you were in school.
Yeah,
Schools usually always stands in the way.
yeah,
People always leave school to go and pursue music, pursue what they need to do.
yeah, absolutely.
But it's weird because I feel like, your mom built you up to that point though.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
And then basically was like when the opportunity came, when push came to shove, she was like, no.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like that's definitely what it felt like when I was a kid. I mean, when I went to college and, you know, experiencing like, oh, we lost our agent. Oh, we lost this manager said never mind. Like, oh, like these people don't want to work with us anymore. Like being in the middle of that, it felt like why did my mom just go like no,
Yeah.
because I remember I didn't obviously you're a kid, like I didn't want to go to college, especially hearing managers and shit tell me like
Yeah.
you don't need to do that right now. College will always be there.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Um
Period, girl. Tell
right.
my mom.
No, like exactly. But I am a recovering parent pleaser. I'm working on it.
You're a recovering parent pleaser?
Yeah.
I guess I am too. I don't know why I'm saying you're recovering. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in
We all are.
recovery.
No, we
We're in
all are.
recovery.
Like,
Absolutely.
I literally like I feel like it's in my 20s I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. We're just gonna have to sit in
Yeah.
you being unhappy with me. We're just gonna have
Yes.
to sit in this and be okay with this.
Absolutely. And just like figure it
Yeah,
out.
and figure it out. Like I can't keep bending to constantly make you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like, I mean, I followed that. It led me down this entire path of like, like, okay, I guess I'll go to college. I guess I'll study music business, even though I had no interest in that. I guess I'll work in the music industry, which I had no interest in. I literally just left the music industry like uh almost a year ago now. Because I
Like
just
working corporate side.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, because they're
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. What the fuck?
What the fuck was that?
Like
What was
that's
that about?
hilarious. But like all of that was what my mom saw for me. Um and again, I understand like the other she grew up a poor kid, and like
Yeah.
college was such a privilege that she had to save up for and like that she couldn't go to until a little bit later
Mhm.
in life. And so I understand where she was coming from. And also, now I think with everything, it's kind of like an ego death, kind of going to college and watching all of these things fall to the wayside.
Mhm.
And also realize that, like, oh, life as an adult Black woman actually is terrible. Like,
Yeah.
you really don't realize, like, you understand as a kid, even like 18, 19, 20.
No, people are telling you, but you don't believe
You
it.
don't believe it. You
Cause like
genuinely don't believe it.
I remember people being like, I remember seeing the clip where I think it was like that clip that they play all the time with Malcolm X and like the black woman is the most disrespected woman in the United States and da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's not gonna be me. Nobody
Right.
can disrespect me.
Right. Right.
Like I am gonna be on top. Like me, I'm gonna make it through. Like I'm gonna win at life. Like I have the cheat codes. Like I am
Mm-hmm.
exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother episode.
When we kind of hit it in terms of a lot of press and everything and attention, we were kids. We were just like cute Black kids. There's like
Yeah.
such a huge
I saw
difference
the,
in
even the way that they
perception.
like they snapped you guys. It was like,
Right. They
yeah.
love that. They ate it up.
No, they did. But you guys are so cute.
Right.
Like,
Adorable little kids. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like random Black bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, like I don't even know
that
what
switch
else
is
to say.
crazy.
Like, the
That switch
switch is
is
actually
it's
insane. Like,
like that is
because
yeah.
everyone here understands, like, we all used to be cute Black kid. And then, like, we all grew up and became, like, menacing, scary Black man. Like, like
Yeah.
whatever label they want to put on us.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I was like trying to do my art and be a musician in a genuine way, like I had always been, and like that
Yeah.
had been accepted. And then all of a sudden it was
No.
like,
No
what are you
black
doing over
no
here
black
with your
bitch.
R&B music?
You,
And like it's just
we don't want your R&B music.
yeah,
We don't
like
want that.
it was a mind fuck.
No, I feel that.
So yeah, like after everything, now I'm kind of in a place where like I'm just kind of, I need to recalibrate my relationship with my art because over the years there was
Mm,
so much pressure from my mom, from my label, from
okay.
school because I studied songwriting. Like I feel like my relationship with my music and like writing is just like shifted,
Mm,
and it's not necessarily like that safe place that I would go to like unleash all of my feelings. There's so
yeah.
much pressure that's been built up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I want to talk about recovery because
Mm,
it's not a linear path.
no.
It's really weird
Yeah.
and you end up being a bit upset at a
Mhm.
lot of people and you
Mhm.
have to start working through that and letting go of it.
Mhm.
Did you have trouble conceptualizing that you needed help or you needed to seek help because like your mental health was like you were struggling with your mental health? Did you go to your parents first? I mean, given that you said you are a recovering parent pleaser.
Yeah.
What was your first step in like getting help?
I've had so many start stops, and I feel like that is a huge thing in your mental health journey, right? Is like starting on that path and then
Mhm.
getting off of it and starting up again and getting off and
Mhm.
then starting on the path and realizing like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try to intentionally stay on this path.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I mean, right before COVID hit, I literally had a breakdown in front of my parents where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, my relationship with my art has completely changed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so messed up from everything, blah, 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 blah. And my parents were like, it was like the first time that they actually heard me. And they're like,
Mm.
okay, like, let's figure this out. And then, girl, like 4 days later, COVID hit. And so then all of that was never mind because it was about
The
safety.
pandemic, yeah.
Yeah,
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 pandemic.
and staying alive. So it was completely never mind. Like, we've never had that conversation again. But honestly, the thing that really like kicked me through the door was moving in with my partner. And like you really don't realize like all of the things that you've built up
Mm-hmm.
until you have kind of like a mirror reflecting that
Yeah.
back to you. I knew that I had like issues or whatever, but like I also knew that sometimes I felt really good. And like if
Yeah.
I, you know, didn't think about my life and my issues and hung out with my
Yeah.
friends on the weekends and like kept myself busy with distractions and I was fine.
Was any at any point was a stigma or like, because there is a stigma against like mental health, specifically in the Black community. It's like
Definitely.
that's some white people shit.
Definitely.
Like we don't go through that shit. But it
Um
seemed like your parents were a bit more evolved from that.
they were a bit, but like it was like God, I know that there's like a term for this, but like it's like they almost hit it. They were almost like on the money, but like just missed the mark on a few things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like they went to therapy, but they went to couples therapy when they were like,
Also, they believe in therapy.
they believe in therapy, but the catch was only when it's like when your relationship is like in dire fucking conditions. Like
Oh, it needs to be
they
in
were like,
tatters.
yeah, no, like you need to be in an emergency. Um,
Mm-hmm.
about to divorce somebody to like go to
Yeah.
therapy. So it
But if you
never
think about it, that's honestly how Black people see Western medicine or
right.
like the healthcare system in general. Like they
Exactly.
have to be wheezing. Like it's
Has
after
to be
the
bad.
stroke they come in.
Yes.
It's after the heart attack they pull up and they like learn like X, Y, and Z. And
Yeah.
like I'm not surprised because
Yeah.
like I there is a history of there's a reason why Black people do have a mistrust with Western medicine.
Absolutely.
People in color in general,
Yeah.
like the syphilis trials,
Mhm. Mhm.
other things and like historically that has happened that has been extremely like racist to
Yeah.
Black people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even just like believing like, oh, well, like all of this was created for white people. So there's not really a framework to address mental health um through the lens of the Black experience. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I took my mental health seriously
Mm-hmm.
until my partner, who is white, was like, "Listen,
We gotta do something about
we
this.
gotta, you gotta talk about some
We gotta get it
stuff."
together.
Yeah, no, like,
I think for me it was so much more like so long and drawn out and
uh-huh,
like there were so many different traumas that like I think I was like working through.
yeah,
And but on top of that, I think for me, it was mainly because of cultural reasons.
yeah,
Coming from a culture that doesn't see mental health as like a real thing.
mm,
Like I remember when I went to Guinea like a few summers ago and I asked one of my friends, I was like, "Oh my God, like are there any like therapists in Guinea?" And like my cousin laughed and was like, "Haha, like you mean like the we call it like you mean the karamoko? And the karamoko in like our language is like spiritual black magic
mm-hmm,
type thing."
mm-hmm,
They thought it was like so funny that I even asked if there was like mental health resources for people in Guinea. Because they were just like people are trying to survive and eat. Like nobody
yeah,
has time for mental
of
health. Like
course,
nobody has time for that. Which like honestly fair. Like it is a
yeah,
different environment. But like I have heard of scenarios or situations within my family where people have struggled with mental health,
mm-hmm,
but it was chucked as something that we deal with internally as a family because this thing called karamoko is like very much so like a hidden shoo behind the door type thing.
mm-hmm,
And you'll hear a lot of people say, "Hey, um, you know, she kind of like lost her mind, went off the rails, and they had to send her to the village to get medicine." It's some sort of like spiritual practice to
yeah,
like wash you of like your jinn or like there's like a very religious layer to it of like we needed someone to pray over her. We needed somebody to take the devil out of her spirit. Like it's like when someone is experiencing like an episode, like
Yeah.
literally I have heard people describe what an episode is and
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Oh no, that person is possessed by the jinn, by like an evil spirit. And so we need to take it out of her."
Honestly, that is what it feels like to have an episode.
Yeah, and I'm just like, guys, like so it's like they understand the aspect of like someone needs help, we need to get them help.
Yeah.
But for some reason when it comes to therapy, a lot of Africans I feel like are like, no, 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 no.
Mhm.
Like I do not need that. Whatever that is, that white shit, I don't need that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it, it's not like black people don't have mental health issues. It's
Yeah.
not something, you know what I mean? Like we definitely do have this and we do need to seek help. And so for me, I don't know why, but for the longest I had compartmentalized these two. I
Mhm.
was like, no, like what, this person is experiencing, like in my culture, like nobody has these things. Like, and also like as the oldest daughter and like having the pressure to perform and like set the example, what does it look like if I'm depressed and like
Mhm.
struggling? Like I'm showing a sign of weakness to my siblings that's unacceptable. And I need
Yo,
to push through and power through because
that's facts.
I'm the example.
He 1000%. You know, even though my parents believed in therapy and believe in therapy, they still do. I think like, they also there were so many like lenses, right? Like my parents aren't religious,
Mm,
and so there was never like a framework through religion or spirituality. I think honestly a lot of their shit was like, they're Gen Xers. Like honestly, we need to pray for our Gen Xers.
we don't talk about them a lot. We go baby boomers,
We don't talk about
millennials,
them, and that's why they're
Gen Z.
so like neglect. Like
Yeah.
that's the summary of Gen X is like neglect. Like they are struggling, they are suffering with a lot of mental health issues that are undiagnosed and they don't know it. And life has always just been like hard for them,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just like what they're used to. And so
Yeah.
I think like my parents value therapy, but like they still I think have a hard time seeing my issues
Mm-hmm.
as legitimate issues, as issues that like you would need to go to therapy for
Yeah.
and fix,
Because another layer for me too is like at least for my family, it's like when you have immigrant parents, it's like you have it so much better than we had it.
That's
Like
exactly what it
why
is.
are you complaining? Like
Yeah.
you have shelter,
Mhm.
you have food, you have clothes. Like why are you complaining? And especially specifically for me, it's like my parents are seeing me have access to resources that they could have never imagined. So to
Yeah.
me, it's like, girl, you should be elated over the
Yeah.
moon.
Yeah.
Like my parents would always just say like, look at the school you go to. It's like I should be so thankful that I go to school with rich people. Thank
Yeah.
you. Like it was just
Absolutely.
yeah, and so it's like I think for them for the longest like what do you like you are being like you're being ridiculous. Like my
Yeah.
mom would always bring up the point like you have laundry service. Do you know how many people have laundry service? Like you don't even have to you don't have to cook, you don't have to clean. You
Yeah.
should be getting straight A's. Like
Yeah.
you have everything done for you.
Mhm.
What do you mean you can't produce straight A's? And like I could not look at her and be like, I am literally depressed. Like I am
Yeah.
fighting for my
No,
life.
there's
I
no
am
way.
underwater. These people are so racist. It's affecting my how I view myself,
Oh yeah.
how I perform in class. And it's just like it wasn't up until I think I graduated during the pandemic. I think my mom turned to us one day, or I don't know, my mom had like a racist encounter with somebody,
Mhm.
and she was just like, "Oh my God, you guys are right. Racism is real. Like it's
Ah,
crazy out here."
I'm
Like, and I was
screaming.
like, "Yeah, is it now hitting
Right?
you?" How would you say finding a therapist was? Because I had a
Hmm.
bit of a roller coaster ride, like finding my therapist.
Oh my God, yeah. Would you say this is not a safe space? It's a brave
It's a
space?
brave space.
I'm gonna be brave.
Be brave, girl.
I'm gonna be
Let her
brave.
rip.
My journey, my like discovering my therapist journey didn't get good until I finally just decided, you know what? I'm done trying to find a black woman therapist. I
Really?
gotta find somebody else, different demographic.
Oh my God. Please go into that.
I
Yeah,
know. It sounds
yeah.
like fighting words.
No, no, because you know how they're like, you need to find a black woman therapist. You need to
Yeah,
find
yeah,
this. You
yeah.
need to find that. And I've had my share of experience with black women therapists. I'm like,
I just can't. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Why? Where is the disconnect?
One of the things, I'm not going to say one is like more important than the other, is that a lot of these therapists, a lot of the therapists that I trust are obviously older than me. Like, I'm not going to work with a therapist that's like my age. I'm so sorry. I know that that's deeply ageist, but like,
No, no, I don't care.
I'm not
I
going
don't work
to,
with young therapists.
right.
There's a
Like,
big difference.
I'm so sorry. You're not going
No.
to learn how to do therapy
I
on
also
me.
think it's one of the few practices, I can be wrong, and maybe a psychologist will stitch this and be like, "You are wrong,"
Yeah.
whatever. Um, I just think it's a profession where like time, experience, your
Exactly.
wiseness grows, and you become
Exactly.
better at your job the longer you're
The
in
more
it.
clients you have, the more people you know, the more worldly you are. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so we're just going to get that out of the way already. So I'm looking for older and older demographic, and I just often find a lot of the black women are conservative in ways that I
Mm,
don't like, that I feel like affects my therapy. And I feel like it's still hard to this day as an adult woman to find other black atheists that like grew up that way.
yeah.
And I feel like religion often kind of like finds its way into my therapy sessions, which doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel
Good.
good because also because I genuinely can't relate to it, you know?
Yeah.
So there's like you know, when you are an atheist, like you can kind of see where religion seeps into everything. And like I think a thing that like a specific thing about my mental health, my depression, my anxiety is that I don't believe in like a sort of higher
Mm-hmm.
power that things will be better or things will be resolved or there's someone looking out for me. Like there's a lot of like bleakness and kind of like definitive
Mm-hmm.
feelings of like definitive likeness that feels really depressing. And like trying to share that with a religious therapist
Yeah.
is kind of like it's hard for them to even
Stand
understand
it. Yeah.
seeing the world through that perspective.
Yeah.
So that's a huge one. You know, conservative about weed and like drugs and like doing
Yeah.
drugs. Like,
That's a big one. Yeah.
listen, if I'm gonna be honest with myself in therapy, I'm gonna need like somebody to just like listen to
Yeah.
the way that I live my life. And like because I do want to address my like my weed smoking, right? But
Yeah.
like I can't address it if there's any feeling of like guilt
Judgment.
or shame or
Judgment.
judgment,
Yeah.
because that's just gonna like re-traumatize me.
Yeah.
And then I feel like another huge reason why I was like, you know what, I actually am not, I'm done
Mm-hmm.
with working with black women on my mental health is because I found so many times that like when I just needed sort of like validation or like tools or to address a racist encounter or you know, an encounter very specific to our identities, our intersectional identities, my intersectional identity of being like a lesbian black
Yeah.
woman, um was just like, honestly, there was just a lot of like, like I understand.
Yeah.
And like, oh yeah, like that's just how the world is, which is true. That
Yeah.
is just how the
The
world
world
is
is.
for
Yeah.
us. But like sometimes it felt too close to home. Like I'm just talking to you. I'm talking to a friend
Yeah.
who is relating to my life perspective. And just being like, yep, like what can you do?
Yeah.
When really like what I need in therapy is a lot of validation. A lot of my healing is to like feel like I'm being emotionally validated.
Yeah.
And so I do need my therapist to be like, they were racist to you? Like, that's horrible, you
Yeah.
know? Instead of like a black woman being like, yeah, girl, like,
It
they're
is what
racist
you.
to me in my job here.
Yeah.
You know, like I
Yeah.
literally had one of my psychiatrists like, yeah, you know, that's how it is in my workplace, like working here. And I'm like, this company that you work for, like the portal that I'm signed to right now is racist. Like, how are you gonna help me through this? You know what I'm
Like it seems
saying?
like you need me to talk to you.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
girl, I can't know that. You should have told me that.
Yeah.
You
Because
know?
now I feel like it's doomsday.
Right.
Now it's like, well,
Exactly.
damn it.
Exactly.
The person I'm going to help professionally is
Exactly.
also struggling. Like, then what are we all really doing here?
Exactly. So I need a level of relatability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a person of color or like a woman, right? Like to
Yeah.
understand a sort of to be able to like understand me in some ways, in
Yeah.
some general ways. But in terms of like my experience as a black woman, I can't have my like therapist having fucking the same day to day as me. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because what are they going to be able to tell me? It's bleak out here. It's
Because
bad out here.
I do think to a certain because like my therapist, she definitely relates to me, but like when I come and tell her like, yeah, no, this and this happened at work, and she'll be like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like that is fucked up. And
Yeah.
like her relating to me isn't in this like doomsday kind of way, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, yeah, girl, and you need to we like you are amazing, you are great, and I feel like she arms me with
Yes.
the confidence to go back and like because mainly what I go to therapy for is to have the skills to be able to go and tackle this fucking world that we live in. You
Yes,
know what I mean?
exactly.
Like I
Exactly.
feel like sometimes there's certain things like outside of my friends that I just need a licensed professional to help me deal with because the
Exactly.
feelings are so complicated and I can't even make sense of it.
Yeah.
And so like I do feel you that there are a few therapists that definitely project their experiences onto you
Mm-hmm.
because I do have a black woman therapist
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I have really enjoyed working with her because I had another black woman therapist who was awful. Like she sucked straight up.
Yeah.
Like she you could just tell she was just like looking at the timer. She wanted it to end, and when it ended, she'd be like, "So when's our next session?" And I literally at one point I was like, "We're never having a session again. Like
No,
this is over. Like you
literally.
suck." And she was like asking me to like pitch her to new clients at work, and I was like, "I will literally never send anyone to you. Like you literally suck."
Yeah.
I will say though, to get on medicine, I was working with my therapist for like a few years,
Mm-hmm.
and one thing I will say I appreciate about my therapist is she let me bring up the conversation of getting on medication
Mm-hmm.
because at that
Mm-hmm.
point I had basically gone on sabbatical from work. I had to take a break from work. I was going through so much. You know, things at home were a bit crazy and I just was feeling intense, like same sadness I was feeling towards the end of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Very like not didn't feel like dressing up and going to work. I looked crazy all the time. My room was a mess. My room being a mess is always an indicator of like what's going on in my brain. If
Yeah.
you enter my room and it's neat and it's sparkling and it's amazing, I'm doing great, guys. When my room is a mess or my apartment is a mess and you walk in and it looks disgusting, I'm not okay. Like, check on me. Like, literally, like, let's clean together. Things like that. Like, we need
Yeah.
to, like, I'm not okay. I was experiencing extreme depression and sadness, and I was extremely anxious. And so, even though I had this time off and it was supposed to be for me to rest, I was not resting. I was like, I need to do something. Like, I can't waste this time. I need to be able to, like, I need to take my GMAT, get a 700, do this and this and this and this. And I was like
Mm-hmm.
telling Cahleb about it, and Cahleb was like, no, like, you should just, like, not do that. Like, you
Yeah.
should just rest. Like, this is for you to rest. Like, once you're back and, like, in you're healthy again, you can then start studying for the GMAT. And then I was just like, I hung up the phone and I was like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm gonna go take the GMAT. I signed up for this class and I literally could not finish it.
Yeah.
And my anxiety was getting worse and worse. Mind you, I already took 3 months off at this point, and I was like, okay, so I'm still feeling as burnt out, sad, like overwhelmed as I was when like I took a break from work.
Mm-hmm.
What am I gonna do? And that's when I was just like, I was having a conversation with Khalib and I was like, like, I just don't think this is normal. Like, I've been having these feelings for years, like the burnt outness, like me not performing well at work. I couldn't read through an email without like losing my train of thought.
Yeah.
I couldn't get anything done at work. It was literally impacting my day to day. I was like an insomniac. My eating schedule was all out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, like this is beyond me now. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no amount of hot yoga, time off that's gonna save me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I have to stop raw dogging life. And then that's when I started talking to my therapist and I was like, I don't know, like maybe like I need to like, I don't know, get on medication, but I don't want to be a crackhead. And she was like, you're not gonna be a crackhead. And I was like, but I don't know, like I just feel like I don't really need it. Maybe I just need to like chill out or something. Like she was like, no, you need to be on medication. You should have been on
Yeah.
medication a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm glad we're having a conversation now. And once I got on it, I was like, oh my God, Natasha, why didn't you tell me about this before? And she was just like, girl, you had all these ideas about you turning into a crackhead and this, that, one, and the third. I could not shove medication in your face and be like, no, you were not ready.
Yeah.
You were not ready. You needed to go through all of that to get to where you were.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got to that point and she recommended me to a psychiatrist, we had a conversation about what type of medication I needed. And so I needed a stimulant, but I couldn't have anything that like was going to make my anxiety worse.
Yeah.
And so we toyed around with a lot of different ideas, but I ended up getting on Lexapro.
Okay.
And Lexapro, I kid you not, it changed my life. Like
There
it
we go.
really just made me a much like I was getting up. Mornings weren't crazy for me anymore because like before getting up in the morning was like it was insane. Like you have to like rip the covers off of me, like pull me out of bed, like it was insane.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's basically like how was it for you getting on medication?
Honestly, I don't know. I feel like we all kind of have this with our moms, black moms be like, when you like obviously are messed up about something over like how you grew up, and then your parents are like, "Oh my God, like why do you have issues with XYZ?" And you're like, maybe because of how I grew up. But like you can't tell them because they'll get upset.
Mhm.
I feel like that is what happened with my mental health. Like I was honestly having breakdowns all the time in college
Yeah.
because the racism was insane, and like I had never been in an environment where I was forced to question my artistry and like
Yeah.
question myself, like, but I was just being treated like shit, you know?
Yeah.
And it made me like alienate myself even further. So it was a really like lonely college experience, and so I was always like crying spells, calling my parents, calling my mom, like I can't do this, and like all this stuff. And like by the time, I don't know, I was like a junior in college or something, my mom was like, "You need to like get this figured out." She's like, "You have a lot of like issues that you need to." I swear to
You
God.
have
She's like,
problems.
"You really have to like address that." And so I was like,
That is so
okay.
crazy.
No, like absolutely. Like I had not been taken to a therapist or anything like growing up. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden I was like, you need to like get therapy. And so I was like, okay, but I just so I knew that I needed medication. I knew I needed help, but like I didn't have the tools to do that for myself. So
Mhm.
I didn't for a while. And it was just kind of like it became part of my like dark sense of humor to be like, yeah, LOL, like
Mentally ill.
undiagnosed baby, you know? Like horrible. So it wasn't until I was like in my 20s, like 20. I remember I took medication for the first time right after my 24th birthday.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it was like a week or so after I turned 24. And I was like, okay, like,
What was your
cheers.
path into like your medication? Did you take stuff like cuz you know, I know it's not a one size fits all. Like it
Yeah,
really does have to be tailored to you. It's
yeah.
trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, me cuz like me and my best friend got on Lexapro at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And Lexapro made him manic. Like he had
Mm-hmm.
to stop
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
immediately. And for me, it saved like I told you, like it saved my life. And so we're both on the same drug, on the same dosage, and I'm just like, oh, my life is perfect. I'm like telling him everything, and he's like, I'm not experiencing this. Like I'm not getting it. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he ended up having to, you know, go with Wellbutrin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but there are also some people that were like Wellbutrin and Lexapro
Mm-hmm.
because like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Lexapro also like kills your sex drive. So,
Yeah, dude. I understand. I mean, I'm really lucky that my journey wasn't like up and down. I tried sertraline, which is Zoloft,
mhm,
which really helped with my anxiety because
mhm,
I also have OCD, which I learned is like just anxiety, but like times a million. So the way to treat it is the same way you treat anxiety, but like higher dosages.
mhm,
And so it helped my OCD, but then I felt like, okay, like I don't really have that much motivation. Like I don't have much depression as much,
mhm.
and my emotions aren't like spiking, but like they're also not like I'm not feeling anything, you know?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a zombie for a little bit. And then I like complained about that, and then I was put on Wellbutrin to kind of like help balance that out,
Got you.
and give me like a little bit of like energy.
Mhm.
I feel like it's working, but honestly, I'm gonna be just so honest, is like I have been like smoking weed throughout this entire
Yeah.
kind of like process. Like I didn't stop. I want to take a break to see how my medications feel without any other kind of
Yeah.
like chemicals around to like interact,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it has been helping, you know, but the thing about any drug is that they like spike your dopamine, you know?
Yeah.
So I know that I am only like spiking my dopamine more when I like smoke weed on these medications.
Yeah.
And so there are still things that I notice that I want to explore and like find answers to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it's a never-ending journey, right? Like we don't just have one answer, one dosage, one type of drug doesn't just help you for the rest of your life, you know. I know someone that was on sertraline for like 5 years and then it simply stopped working.
Yeah.
And like they freaked out and like had to start all over finding a new medication that worked
Yeah.
for them.
I was on like 10 milligrams for a while, and then I just kind of flatlined.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and then we upped it
Mm-hmm.
again because my anxiety
Yep.
was shooting through the roof. Going to boarding school, like everybody was on.
That's hilarious.
Everybody was on it. So I remember being
Wow.
like, that was
Mm-hmm.
like another aspect of it. I was like, all right, you freaks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I will never be like that freak. Like, I don't need medicine, and
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna survive. Like, and now I am the freak that I was like talking about. But it's it's been a huge part of me being able to like destigmatize, I think.
Yeah. Definitely.
Getting on the medication, seeing how much it has literally altered my life for the better.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have started this podcast without getting on Lexapro.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
couldn't have done it. Like,
Cheers to Lexapro.
no, period. I don't want to say I did it for professional reasons as well, but it was also like socially. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go out, and I love partying. I didn't want to go out, didn't want to hang out with friends.
Mm-hmm.
Was also like like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just, I wasn't my best version of myself as like a sister, a friend, whatever it was. And I really feel like being on medication like helped me. That combination with therapy
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
has helped me really like go about life in like such a new and better way.
Yeah.
Like I wish I had an adult when I was going through what I was going through in boarding school that tapped me and was like, this is an option. I wish it was destigmatized earlier
Mm-hmm.
because I just feel like I could have done so much better like academically. I
Mm-hmm.
could have done so much better in college, taken advantage with so much opportunity that I didn't take advantage of. And you know what I mean? It's a learning, I'm not going to like give myself too much of a hard time, but it's always one of those things. I was like, when once I got on it, I was like, damn, like why was I raw dogging life like this entire time?
Yeah. Back to what you were saying, you know, in the beginning when we were talking about my bio and like the child star allegations, like, you know, completely separate from blackness, from queerness, from being a woman, like I feel like we have all of these ideas of like what child stars look like and like what child stardom is and
Hmm.
like I think in my mind like that was like a white people thing, you
Yeah,
know? And it was also like a thing for like mega stars. When if you look up the fucking symptoms of like child stars and what they go through mentally, like I'm going through every single one of those things, you
yeah,
know? Like but because my mom was adamant about, you know, beating momager allegations and, you know, being adamant about us beating child star allegations.
yeah,
Like, I didn't really see myself through that framework. And so I didn't
same,
see
yeah,
myself as like needing to address
yeah.
issues that happen from that, you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, I feel like in similar vein, like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be too Americanized. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to be that wild daughter in like the community. Like I didn't want that stigma. I didn't
Absolutely.
want that, you know what I mean? I want to be the good Fulani daughter. Like
Yep.
that is
Yeah.
what I'm here for,
Yes. And as the
pleasing my
oldest
parents.
daughter, like it's literally your job. Like you know, I'm in a band with my brother
Mhm.
and like quite literally something that I heard growing up was like when you guys make it, like it's going to be because Jendayi was like paving the way. Jendayi, you're supposed to pave the way. Like
Yeah.
so it also like not only was like my musical success like on me, it was also my brother's musical success was on me.
Yeah. My mom would always say if your oldest is on the right path, the rest of your kids will be. And
Yes.
so if you know what I mean, like
That's it's the
basically,
same
yeah,
thing.
it's literally the same thing. And that's what
Yes.
I used. That was what kept toying in my mind. Like if
Yeah.
I drop out of boarding school, like what example am I setting? Even though I'm like
Yes.
dying here,
Yeah,
like what am I setting? But
absolutely.
like I think everybody reaches a breaking point. Like I said, for me, it was like literally. And also another thing I didn't even mention is like when I took my sabbatical too, I got diagnosed with alopecia areata, which
Mm.
was like um triggered by stress.
Yeah.
And that was also a huge reason of me also going to medication. Is because I literally,
When you started getting like physical
yeah, like
symptoms.
it was like, oh, you are so stressed, you are so anxious
Mhm.
that like now it is like physically impacting your health. Like
Mhm.
it is
Mhm.
impacting your health. And me losing my hair was so tough.
Of
Like it was
course.
so tough. And I was like, no, no, no. Like, and that actually was the breaking point. Like,
Yeah, dude.
fuck with a black woman all you want. Once you fuck with her hair, it's over.
Let's figure out how to fix this.
I was like, we need to fix this. Like,
Yeah.
and so, and that's truly how we got here. Because there is a lot of stigma still with medication, even with people who are in therapy. Like you hear people be like, "Yeah, I'm 10 years strong in therapy," but like the idea, they'll be like, "But I can't deal with like therapists pushing medication on me." Like you hear that storyline all the time,
Mhm.
and I feel like not trusting medication is in part due to capitalism, in a
Mm.
in a weird way. Like I feel like
Mhm.
mental health and the issues that we experience with mental health stems from us having to participate in this capitalistic system
Yeah.
and constantly having to push through and be active and be on.
Like the answer to that, like why does our disdain for medication, like why is it so connected to capitalism? Like why do we feel that way? And it's like because we've politicized science, and we've made science a like a cultural debate
Yeah.
and a spiritual debate. So then you have, things that are like just scientifically true.
Yeah.
You have a low level of X chemical in your brain. Taking this pill will level it out and you'll feel better. Like that just is math. It's like somebody figured out a math equation to like help us feel better.
Yeah.
But obviously, this place is a bad, bad place. This is a bad, bad place that we live in that's run by capitalists.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
Do you think we would need to have the same level of resources if we weren't functioning under this pressure or under the system?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, like, I feel like if I was white with the way that I grew up, I could have been fucked up in more ways. Like,
Mm.
especially watching these documentaries, watching the Britney doc, watching the Quiet on Set doc, like, it's these little white kids that they be getting. It's these little white kids they be getting. And I feel like if I was a little white girl, my brother was a little white boy, and we were a cute little duo, like, I feel like there also would have been more eyes on us. And there probably would have been way more opportunities for us to experience like trauma and abuse
Yeah.
because that's what they want, these little white kids, you know?
Yeah.
Like that black boy was talking on Quiet on Set about like how, he was upset with his mom in the beginning, like and throughout his entire adolescence because he never saw the same fame that his counterparts did.
Mm.
But the fame that his counterparts experienced like came at a major cost, to their mental health.
Yeah.
And the trauma that they experienced growing up.
Yeah.
So it's like a catch 22. I have thought about that. And I have thought about the ways that, like, growing up black and, how that has made our lives harder. I've
Mm-hmm.
also thought about, how many more opportunities I probably would have had to experience abuse had I grown up a child musician, in the music industry, like
Yeah.
as a white child.
What advice would you have for, you know, young Jendayi or just young black women who are going head to head with their parents or who are
Mm,
experiencing maybe some or all of the symptoms that we talked about today? Actually,
yeah.
this is not like if you are experiencing mental health issues, like go to a doctor.
Talk to your doctor about
Go to your
sertraline.
doctor. That is first and foremost. But I know that I would have definitely benefited from hearing from black women like,
Yeah.
oh, you're experiencing this, like you
Mhm.
should definitely like talk to a doctor about it. It's not normal. It's not normal
Mhm.
for you to
Mhm.
like not clean your room. It's
Mhm.
not normal for you to struggle to get up in the morning. It's not normal for you to like not have the attention span to like finish writing an email. It's not normal for you to be this anxious and jumpy. It's
Yeah.
not normal. It's not
Yeah.
normal. You can't power through it. You can't fight through it. Like you have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel like yourself, you're not performing to the level that you usually do,
Mhm.
let's talk about that. I don't feel like there's enough content, especially when it comes to like black mental health. It's like, go to your therapist.
Yeah.
Go to your therapist. Go. Black people need to go and get a therapist. It's not just that. You don't have to go through life raw dogging it.
Yeah.
You actually don't.
Absolutely.
You really don't. And so finding help, getting the resources that you need, you don't always have to be resilient and fight through something. Like you don't always like it's not always gonna fall back on you.
Mhm.
And I feel like with the black mental health conversations, that's always missing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think like if I could give little Jendayi advice or any like young black girls advice, it would honestly just be like definitions of anxiety and depression and like all of that shit anyway. I feel like, a lot of the things that we grew up with is like feeling like, oh, I guess I'm just sad right now. Or I guess
Mhm.
I'm just scared right now, but like that will pass. And I think that I really would have benefited from being like, from learning like what anxiety physically feels like. If you are experiencing
Yeah.
shortness of breath, butterflies in your stomach, if you feel like you're frozen and you're numb and you can't speak, like
Mhm.
you might be having an anxiety attack. Like
Yeah.
the number of anxiety attacks that I've had growing up as a child and having no clue that that's what it was.
Yeah.
So not being able to explain what was happening to me to my parents, who I'm sure like we were saying earlier, I'm sure that if I would have been able to vocalize, "Hey, I'm in the middle of an anxiety attack.
Mhm.
I need help."
Yeah.
Like I think that my parents they wouldn't have laughed in my face. They would have been like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit, okay." Like they probably would have not known how to help me, but they
Yeah.
would have tried to. But like I didn't even have the language for that to explain the shit that I was going through,
Yeah.
So it was just like, "Oh, I guess I'm just like scared right now," and like that, but that's a small feeling that will pass when
Yeah.
I really would have benefited from like knowing what I was experiencing so that I could then communicate that. And then I also think like I don't think young Jendai would have listened, but if I could go back and just tell any oldest daughter, like, just not to listen to your parents all the time on everything. Just like you
You can't.
cannot
You
listen to
can't.
your
You
parents all
have
the
to be.
time.
You have to be comfortable with not being on good terms.
Absolutely. And like the thing is too is like what's hilarious is if I could tell young Jindai like what happens when you do say yes every single time, like it's just so funny because you end up having the kind of relationship that you always feared
Yeah.
growing up, which was the thing that like made you listen to your parents all the time.
Yeah.
My brother listens to themselves a little bit more than I listen to myself. So, you know, I watched my brother make decisions that would make my mom upset in the moment. They would go at it, whatever.
Yeah.
And like now that we're adults, my brother is just like a little bit more comfortable with themselves in life now.
Mhm.
And so my mom is at peace with how they feel, right? Like
Yeah.
I did every single thing that my mom wanted me to do, every single thing,
Yeah.
down to the career that I ended up in for like a couple years, which is why I
Wow.
was saying like I only just left the music industry professionally like
Yeah.
less than a year ago because I never wanted to work in the music industry
Yeah.
ever. But my mom was like,
This is
do
what makes
it.
sense.
This is
Yeah.
like this is what makes sense. And I did it like literally up until 24 years old was I living life, on my mom's terms. And there what comes from that like what comes out of that is so much anger and
Yeah.
resentment and not knowing who you are and having difficult conversations with your mom, like you burn out from that,
Yeah, you
right?
do.
And then you get tired of that.
Mhm.
And I think that like I would say right now my brother and my mom have a much more peaceful relationship than like I have with my mom right now because
Yeah.
all of this shit is coming up that I'm
Yeah, I would
needing
say
to
the same too.
address and
Yeah.
heal,
Yeah.
and like that, I would tell little Jindai, like, listen, it doesn't work the way you think it does.
Yeah.
Making mom a little bit pissed off right now will save you so
So
much
much more.
time
Yeah,
and money on therapy
I agree.
and whatever, and feeling good and comfortable within yourself while also having a good relationship with your mom, because you taught yourself how to create boundaries and you kind of inadvertently taught your mom how to respect your
Those
boundaries.
boundaries,
Like,
yeah.
that's what you're just gonna have to do all of that as an adult.
I mean, yeah, like I mean, first episode, like I, I said I don't like I basically was told everyone I dropped out of grad school.
Yeah.
And that was one of the hardest things
Yeah.
that I had to tell my mom. And
Yeah.
I realized that like i- I had to be okay with her not being
Mhm.
okay with my decisions.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if every time she's not okay with my decisions, I'm rushing to fix it and make it
Mhm.
like we're still operating in the same cycle. And it's
Absolutely.
over time going to build resentment,
Yep.
over time going to impact my mental health because I'm not really truly living for me. I
Absolutely.
wish I did it earlier because if I did it earlier, but the thing is, I don't know how I could have done it earlier. If I did it earlier, I kind of would have fucked my life a little bit. Like she should have a point in a little bit. She'd have a point. Like, go to school, do well, get good
Mhm.
grades. But I think
Mhm.
the level of pressure and like feeling this burden, and I'm not saying like she like I'd hate to paint this picture of like my mom was like subconsciously trying to get me because it's like she really just truly does want her daughter to just be the
Yeah.
best person that she could possibly can be. But I just don't think I don't think she understood the magnitude of the pressure.
Absolutely. And as eldest daughters too, like, we are conditioned to um be on our mom's side
Mm-hmm.
and see everything from our mom's perspective,
Yeah.
and be the rock that your mom can like turn to emotionally, because she grew up like you and wasn't able to express her emotions in a safe
Yeah.
space. So then she finds that in her daughter. There's the relationship that the oldest daughter has with her mom is that of a very nuanced one, which is, I feel like every single one of my friends that is an eldest daughter is like, well, she wasn't like, like we were friends, like you're like,
Yeah,
we were friends,
but you
we
were
were
friends.
chilling, we were
Yeah.
vibing. Like,
I
I
used
was
to spend
like,
like all day on the phone with my
no,
mom.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I would be like, me and this girl, like we have the same values. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, genuinely believing that, you're on the same page as your mom, because that's how you were kind of like taught to be.
Yeah.
And so, recognizing the nuance in that relationship
Mm-hmm.
and being able to like understand, like, it wasn't all great, fun and dandy. It wasn't all bad. It wasn't all negative, like,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of great memories that I have that, looking back, I have like, some more context on and being like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I can see the layers underneath that and like how that kind of like has transformed into some of the patterns and habits that I have in as adult,
Yeah.
maybe the negative ones. But then I can also flip it and I can look back in experiences that I had that, like, as a kid at the time felt like this is a horrible negative experience, and then
Yeah.
seeing the other side of that as an adult and how that maybe like benefited me or helped me in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or
I
form.
feel that
you know
100%. Yeah.
so it's like it's a mixed bag, and I think the healing is understanding that it's a mixed bag,
Mm-hmm.
because your mom does such a good job at, like, she's your whole world.
Yeah.
She is trusting you as the oldest daughter. Like, it feels like you have like a little bit more intel
Yeah.
on like the family strategy, I guess,
I always say we're
like
like the chief of
what the
staff, the
game plan
operations
is.
manager. Yeah.
Exactly. um
Mm-hmm.
so, like, with all of that in mind, just being able to like recognize, like, okay, you can still vibe with her, but like, you don't have to, shit doesn't have to be good between y'all all the time. You don't always have to like force yourself to see her side of things. Sometimes you need to be able to prioritize your side of
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
you know?
No, you're right. And I think that's the hardest. It's hard to do that in your 20s. Like you
Oh
said,
yeah.
because you've been pleasing all along.
Mhm.
But I want to know, like, what's next for you? Because I know you were trying to step away from Charlie Bell a
Mhm.
little bit. What does the future look like for Jendayi?
Yeah. This is so funny because I feel like this is how my mom is going to find out that I'm taking a step back from the
Oh
band.
my God,
Yeah.
brave space.
There we go.
Ooh.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, I have no clue, girl. Like, I have no idea.
And that's okay.
Yeah, like I'm trying to feel like I'm trying to
You're a young
believe that
lit
that's
bitch.
okay.
You don't
Like,
need to figure it out right
just
away.
recognizing I'm honestly like I just relate to so much of what your podcast is about because I truly feel like I'm just now kind of going down this journey of like finally letting go of everything
Yeah.
that, isn't a true extension of myself or like defines the way that I
That's what your
feel about
20s is
myself right
about.
now.
You start
Exactly.
figuring it out. Because we're not just
Exactly.
surviving, man.
Yeah.
You're like, you have the space, the privilege to figure it the fuck out.
Yes. And I feel like, the first thing that I'm going to do is just like take a break
As you should.
from the type of pressure that I've been putting on myself as a musician.
Yeah.
I've literally never known the last time that I just like wrote music or played music just like for funsies. I was probably like 12 years old. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I need to kind of like heal my relationship with my art, and explore what my art looks like in, down other avenues.
Yeah.
Like, there are also times that I would try to branch out creatively, but it would kind of be told to me like, this is just a distraction from your band.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of things that I turned away from that I didn't try
Yeah.
because it was like, it was keeping me distracted
You
from
get
what
to
I
have
really
hobbies
needed.
now.
Dude, exactly. Like, I've been talking about hobbies with a bunch of my friends lately, like, because I realized, like, oh, I
Do
have no hobbies.
it.
Oh. So now I'm gonna, like, I just have to, like, find them. Like, there are a lot of things that I've been interested in
Yeah.
and have thought about, in the distance when I daydreamed, when I was,
Yeah.
like, trying to fucking get an album out the door for my record label. I think that I'm gonna try rock climbing.
You should.
Yeah.
You gotta have arm strength for it though. I
I
went
feel like
embarrassing.
I
I
have
embarrassed
noodle
myself.
arms, so I feel like the long arms thing will help
It's so
me.
crazy. You know the best rock climbers are these like lanky, tall
Exactly.
men. That is definitely like it's such a journey finding your hobby and what you want to do
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And
It
it's also
really
an
is.
exciting one because you get to
Yeah.
find something that you fall in love with all over again.
It's scary and exciting. I've always like been in love with drag. I'm
Period.
thinking about trying to do drag. That one I don't even know where to start and it feels really scary. But like with the performing element, I feel like it could be fun.
Hmm. That's
Um
gonna be a lot of fun.
yeah, who
It's a great
knows?
great place to like channel your art, your
Yeah.
creativeness, and just
Mhm.
like let loose and have a great time.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
love that you finna live life on your
We'll
terms.
see.
You
You gotta
finna,
invite me back in like a
you
year.
know,
See where I'm
I'm gonna
at.
check in 3 months, girl.
Girl,
Yeah.
I need a little more time.
Okay, you're resting still, probably. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. But we will definitely will check in. We need to see where's Jendayi now.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was
Thanks for
such
having
a
me,
pleasure.
Ismatou.
And if you guys like what you saw, follow us at On Our Terms Pod and me, your host, at Tomsy, Tomsy. And you can find the beautiful Jendayi at.
Oh, I guess it's my ads. I also run a lesbian event series in Brooklyn called Lesbian House Party with my partner Madeleine. And yeah, so please check out at Lesbian House Party. My personal Instagram is at _Jendayi_. And if you're curious about my music, we did release something back in September, whenever that was. The band is Charlie Bell, and that Instagram is at Charlie Bell Music. Bell is spelled Belle. And we are also on Spotify under Charlie Bell.
Guys, make sure you go and stream. I love their music.
Thank you.
I love their music a lot. Thank you guys so much for joining me for such a great episode. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. And I'll see you guys next time.